This is my Litecoin price prediction for 2023. Can Litecoin go up over 400% to reach back at this old all-time high in this 2021 level? Find out in this video, so make sure you're watching until the end. The first thing that I like to do when I'm actually looking at a coin is scrolling out to something like the weekly time frame, potentially even the monthly time frame, but a long-term time frame to actually see how the entire price movement has actually gone for Litecoin. Basically, my understanding in this area is we've basically been in a trading range. People have been looking to sell high in this area, even sell high in these areas, and people are looking to buy low in these areas, all through these areas here. We're in a form of a trading range where people are selling in the top 25% of the trading range, people are buying in the bottom 25% of the trading range, and they're potentially scalping. People are looking for trades back up to this old all-time high, and then potentially looking for trades to sell in that area, and then again push back into this value zone of this trading range. Now, the next thing that I really like to focus on is this 20 exponential moving average on my chart, which is actually this orange line through here. I've got the orange line, which is the 20 exponential moving average. I've also got the short-term moving average of the purple line, which is actually a 13 exponential moving average. And what I like to say is, say if the trend of the EMA is actually up, and you see how we get a gap between these two exponential moving averages between the short and medium term, this is now known as the value zone. And once price has been pushing to the upside, once we come back into this value zone, it's always a decent level of support to look to buy. Even in this area, if we compare it back through here, we've got that negatively trending exponential moving average. Now, in between these two prices is the value zone. And if you can get shorts in this area, it gives you real high probability plays to the downside, exactly like what happened. So the main thing that I'm really focusing on right now is I can see in these last few weeks, we have finally began to tick to the upside on this EMA, which tells me we have a high probability of continuous moves to the upside since we have a nice and solidly uptrending EMA. We have been slightly sideways in this area, but we had a really nice strong trend to the upside. Again, still trending to the upside, just slightly more in that sideways direction, but we're still in a trading range pointing to the upside. We also have the Litecoin halving, which is actually coming out basically in the next 29 days. It may even be 28 days. We're going to have the Litecoin halving, and we always have historically seen a really strong run up in Litecoin right before its halving event. So since its halving event is definitely earlier, it's on a completely different schedule to something like Bitcoin or any other of these other coins using their halving cycles. Litecoin has got its own complete halving cycle. So really, in these last few weeks, we've been seeing a lot of traders actually coming into the market. We've got this 20 EMA to the upside. We've also got the Litecoin halving in this area through here. Definitely gives us that high probability or higher probability that we are going to get a move to the upside. If we do get a move to the upside, what type of areas are we actually looking for? When we look to the left in this area, I can actually understand why this area right here has been acting as a resistance level through this area here for Litecoin. We've got 3 support levels in here, 1, 2, 3. We've also got another one, 4. We've also got another one, 5. Once this 5th and really strong support level actually broke to the downside, it's then going to act as this support to resistance level flip. All in this area was initially support. Every time price came back to this area, we were bouncing to the upside, came back to this area, bouncing to the upside. But once we got this breakthrough, all these levels through here is actually going to act as a resistance level because we've got that support to resistance level flip. So if I put that current price point in there and actually encapsulate a lot of these prices, when we scroll over to here, we can see why we're actually having a strong level of resistance. And even from that price in here, push to the downside, that was over a 34% drop. Even in this price right through here, that was a nearly 25% drop. And even in this current area, we did push above it, now potentially coming back. So now the next thing that we can now look at is potentially this has become a new support to resistance flip again. This initially was a really strong resistance level all in this area, another strong resistance level. We've finally got a break above this resistance level. It makes sense that this current price point actually retests these two prices, and then we use it as a springboard to the upside. Since it's been that support to resistance flip in the past, you can see potentially there's a support and resistance flip type trading also happening in the future. And even if we move slightly sideways in this direction in these next few days 2 weeks, it would then give us enough time for this exponential moving average to actually catch up. Say we move slightly sideways, retesting this support to resistance flip, also using this support of the 20 EMA to push to the upside, then giving it a really strong backboard to actually continue to the upside and potentially make it up to that $200 level. So I can really understand why right now we are having at least a small amount of resistance, but we've recently broken out of that resistance, potentially going to use it as now a support level, using that to support to resistance level flip, now looking for big longs to the upside. The next thing that I like to do is actually using this Fibonacci retracement tool, actually going to this all-time high back in 2021 at this rough $414 per Litecoin. We then drag it down to this current low, which actually happened in June of 2022 at roughly this $40 level. So we actually drag it across. Now we get price populating here. We've got the 0.382, 0.5, and the 618 levels in the market. So we're really trying to look for some type of confluence zones in here where we can see confluence between the support and resistance flips and potential Fibonacci retracement tools. But there really is no support in this area here. The only really strong support is in this area here, in this area here, and using in this area here, as we just spoke about for the last couple of minutes. But in these areas here, we really don't have that strong support to resistance flip. I could even flip over to the daily time frame and zoom right into this chart. It would potentially show that this was acting as a support, initial resistance, then flips to a resistance level. Then we got that downside momentum. But since it's really not clear, especially even on the weekly time frame, there's no real point in zooming in and basically trying to actually force something on the chart. We can see that we will see some small amount of rejections in this area once we come up to the 382, 0.5, and 618 levels. So there's definitely at least 3 targets right now, because the halving is basically going to happen in August. So if we actually put a line on the chart and actually say, yep, by this date here, that's where we expect we know the Litecoin halving is actually happening, then we can actually say, and actually try and figure out, we need to move quite long and strong in this level here to be able to even make it back up to this price point. If we even do a bit of a projection and look at our current price, which is at the $100 mark, it would actually make sense that before this halving for Litecoin, we actually moved up this 80% level. So basically having 80% profit potential on this particular trade. But if let's actually look at how much price could actually move if we go up to this 50% level, basically 127%. So that would actually make sense. If we move the price between 80% and roughly 127%, it would definitely make sense. If we look at what Litecoin has basically done in the last 2 weeks, we've already moved up 60% in the last 2 weeks. So it would make sense that over the next 4 weeks, we would have that potential, especially to push up another 80% from this current price, potentially even pushing up that 120%. But when we look up here, can we say that Litecoin can double? It definitely can, roughly pushing that 170% away. But again, it just reduces the probability a little bit. The main thing that I'm looking at is in the last few weeks, we're pushed up already 60% close to 65%. Definitely could double that, basically do a double move. If we combine that high, combine it up to here, that's basically a 1-to-1 move. So definitely potential in here. You could even make a 1-to-1 measured move strategy, because both of these green bars are actually trend bars. You could actually zoom in and find an exact square, copy that over, paste it up here, and even that could be an initial target at around that $150 level. But it does make sense to actually use this Fibonacci retracement to figure out what rough price point, because we will see some amount of sellers coming into this level. We'll see sellers in this area and in this area as well, mainly because not only are there individual traders trading this strategy, but there are actually bots trading this strategy, and they're going to put on a trade as soon as we touch this level, as soon as we touch this level, as soon as we touch this level, potentially looking for shorts to the downside. And if they're not looking for shorts to the downside, then a lot of them will be exiting out of their longs in these areas if they've been long and strong in this area. And obviously, how do you let go of a long position where you have to short? And that's where we get that downside momentum. A lot of times the market is potentially moving for the opposite reason that you think. You might be thinking, oh, a lot of people are actually getting short in the market here, and that's why price is moving down. Well, potentially what's happening is people are exiting out of their long positions. When you do that, you obviously have to sell in the market. When that happens and there's enough players actually doing the same thing, it is then people actually selling in the market rather than new participants entering the market for shorts to the downside. It's old participants exiting out of their trade, again, just selling out of their trade, pushing the price lower. The next thing that I like to do is actually use the trend-based Fibonacci extension. So I'll bring it to this 2020 low, roughly at this $24 level, drag it to the all-time high, and then drag it down to this 2022 low that happened in June. Yes, it was back in 2022. So we've now got price populating in the area. Obviously got these 382, 0.5618 levels. We've also got this 1618 level. And if we currently look at our current price point at this 1618 level, it's roughly 600 to 700% away. So in my personal opinion, now after being able to see where this is actually going on the chart, that is probably too far of an actual price prediction to be able to say, yes, Litecoin can make it up this 600 to 700%. There is definitely some potential for that to actually happen in Litecoin. But again, when I just delete everything off the chart and you look at the chart, we can basically say we have been in a trading range. A lot of people are selling high in these areas. A lot of people are buying low. So really, one of my last price points would just be a retest of this all-time high. Now, we might make it slightly above. We might be able to just break above this high in this area before we then get that down tick. But really, what I'm really looking is to be selling high and to be buying low. And we really are in the bottom 25% of this trading range. If we actually look, that's around 25% there. And we're literally at the bottom of this 25%. And the goal is to then be selling in this top 25% and just gain the difference in between here. Because potentially, since now looking at the left, it is a little bit unlikely for Litecoin to actually smash through the old all-time high. There is definitely potential, but since we've looked to the left and we're seeing that continuous trading range price action, we can only assume that that's going to continue in the future. So really, my last target for Litecoin would actually be just before this old all-time high, roughly around that 250% away. So still a really fantastic trade potential. If I was to take this trade, I'd really be looking to actually place a stop in this low in here. Since we've made a high in this area, this is now a new high. This is the new swing low position. So obviously it'd still be something like 30% away if we were to take the trade. Yeah. So you'd need to take roughly 30% risk on this potential trade, then be looking for 30% risk, but looking for that 250% gain to the upside for your target. So really good risk to reward, basically a 10 to 1 risk to reward, closer to an 8 to 1 risk to reward. But obviously you need to risk 30% on your account. So really the way that I would personally be trading is I only risk 3% on any single trade. And since the risk would actually be 30%, I basically would take a 1/10 position size, because a 1/10 position size losing 30% then equals 3% overall. So I'd really only be risking 3% of my total account portfolio. Even though this is a 30% risk trade, I just adjust my stats to actually figure out exactly how I can risk the right amount on this trade. And obviously looking for an 8 to 1 risk to reward. And let's say this probability has even a 50%, let's even give it a low 40% probability. If you add this into your trader's equation with this 40% level, you have that 8 to 1 risk to reward. Then you would quickly find out that this trade definitely has a high trader's equation, and it is above 1, which means that you can then take that trade over and over again, meaning that in the long term, you basically nearly guarantee to be a long-term profitable trader, because you're using the profitable trader's equation, understanding the risk to reward on your strategy, understanding the actual expectancy of the strategy, and then plugging that into your trader's equation. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button, make sure to smash the subscribe button, and leave a comment on which coin you'd like me to do next in this price prediction series. I'll see you in the next video.